I'm so excited to introduce Emma BF, who is frankly a just like networker extraordinaire. So I'm just gonna you may know her already. She's worked with us on the Rise Up. It's her program. We've just sort of shoved people over in her direction because it's just
We've
perfectly
fused
aligned.
teams. I feel like we're the Avengers when it comes to Rise Up.
There,
We're
there were
just like,
there were synergies. Um, so I am going to let you do your beautiful magic, and then you just hop on. You just let me know when I need to hop back on. Um,
sounds good.
I hope everyone enjoys.
Thank you, Rachel. Hi, lovely people. Welcome to the mountains of New Hampshire. I was sitting inside of my desk and I was like, you know what? It is a summer day. It's absolutely gorgeous out here. So I thought I'd bring you outside with me. So this is your invitation. If you've been sitting inside all day and you're like, you know what? That looks beautiful, Emma. I literally haven't breathed fresh air all day. How about you go outside, get yourself a little drink? I'm enjoying the sparkling water. And let me know in the chat where you're calling in from and one word to describe how you're feeling right now. I'm a fully interactive human. Part of networking is being connected with the other person on the side of the screen. And nothing matters to me more than knowing who here is on the other side of the screen. So let me know in the chat. Where are you located? And what is one word to describe how you're feeling right now? B. Morgan, hi. Kimberly is in the house. Rachel's in the house. Yumi's in the house. Rachel's feeling anxious about technology. It's all good. We're making it happen. Who else, y'all? Let me know in the chat. I got to know who's here on the other side. I can't just be speaking into the void. It's not how we roll. That's not how I roll. And that's not how networking works. So it's all good. I'm going to let y'all bring those in here while I tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Emma BF. I have a very long last name, y'all. So BF stands for Bloxburg Fire Ovid. And that is like my maiden name. My mom's name is Bloxburg. My dad's name is Fire Ovid. So my whole life I have been known as Emma BF, which was very funny growing up with a lot of Emma friends. Always had to go by Emma BF. I am a leadership coach and I'm the founder of Rise Up Leadership, which is a 10-week leadership accelerator program specifically designed for women in tech to step into leadership and own their power. So I partner with She Geeks Out, with Rachel, with Vienna, with Felicia, with the whole team to bring to you all Rise Up. We have our next cohort that's going to be launching at the beginning of September. So if you're interested in that, Rachel, would you mind dropping the link into the chat? You can get on the wait list through the SGO website. We rolled out 2 cohorts at the beginning of this year. It was amazing. 20 SGO, She Geeks Out women went through the program and we got incredible results. So let's see. We're here in the chat. People are here. I'm so proud of you. Yolanda from Chicago, welcome. Molly from NYC, welcome. B. Morgan from Duxbury. Rachel, Lori, we're feeling anxious, low energy, energized, busy, tired, totally fine. Low energy and awfully warm. Shanna, go outside. Unless outside is very warm. We don't want that. Beautiful, beautiful. I'm just checking, seeing here. What's up? Aiko from Westford, close to New Hampshire border. What's up? Low energy at the moment, preparing for an interview tomorrow. Yes, Ashley, you got this. So good. Oh, I'm so glad that you all are here. Thank you so much for letting me know where you are in the chat. So today we are here to talk about networking. We're here to talk about networking in a way that feels not icky. And I want to tell you quickly what I have learned. What we're going to get into today, just so you know, is we're going to go through the 3 biggest mistakes for networking in 2022. So I'm going to let you know what the 3 biggest mistakes are so that you do not make them. And I want you to know that networking has been something that I was trained how to do early on. So I want you to know that networking is a skill, first and foremost. Networking is not something that you are maybe people have say, oh, they're a natural born leader or they're a natural born networker. I call BS. Networking and leadership is a skill. There are sets of skills that you can learn, you can practice, and you can strengthen like a muscle over time. And when I was in college, I was working 2 jobs to pay for college. I was on financial aid. And one of the best paying jobs on campus was doing alumni interviews. And so the job was to go to coffee one-on-one with alum. I went to a pretty prestigious university A lot of money there, a lot of money in the alumni network. And so I would have one-on-one coffee chats with alum for about an hour. And my job was to learn about their life, learn about what they cared about, learn what causes were important to them. And from that, I would let them know what connections there were on campus to things that they liked. So if I learned that they loved art and they loved museums, I would let them know about programs on campus that supported students to go to the museum. I went to school at Tufts, which is right outside Boston, so I'd give them information about the Museum of Fine Arts. So I would help them connect what their interests were with what the university had to offer. And then at the end of every coffee chat, I would invite them to make a donation to the university. Now, this is not something I felt comfortable with doing early on. But what I learned, the skill over time that I learned, was how to be present with a person, to genuinely understand who they are, what they care about, and then invite them into an opportunity that aligns with their interests and what they care about. After every call, I would then write up kind of like a call sheet about what were those key components that were important to that alum, so that I could then submit that to the alumni office as a part of the university. And now that I am a full-time leadership coach, I'm full-time entrepreneur, where like I'm having conversations with people, I'm networking every day. Y'all, most of my job is networking. And I train, coach, and support women in tech who are going through interview processes, or they're wanting to look for a new job, or they're wanting to level up their careers. And this skill of networking, I use the same tips and tricks that I learned from that job all the way back in college to now. And so what I'm going to be sharing with you are those key tips and tricks. And I'm going to frame it in a way, as I mentioned at the beginning, which what are the 3 biggest mistakes to avoid when networking in 2022? Okay. So what I'm curious about is, did any part of that story resonate with you? Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the chat. If any part of my story resonated with you or intrigued you, you were like, huh, that's interesting. Never thought of that, as a job. Yes, it paid more than all of the other on-campus jobs. Or, I'm wondering what else, how I can have conversations with people like that so that I can build connections. Let me know in the chat if any of that resonated with you. Hi, Yumi. Thank you for the love. Shana, fellow Jumbo, what's up? Yes, so let me know in the chat if any of that resonated for you. And how I see our next hour going together is I'm going to be talking for the next 20 minutes or so. I'm going to get us to about the 3:30 mark, 3:30 EST. And then I've asked Rachel to come back and join me at the 3:30 mark to start answering some questions, doing some live like coaching, interaction, stuff like that. And then at the end, the opportunity, since we don't have a ton of time together, I'm going to share with you a resource if you want to go deeper with this. So it's a completely free resource. We'll probably introduce that around the 45-minute mark. So if you can't stay, please let us know in the chat so we can get you that resource. And let's see what else we're having going on here in the chat. So Ashley, it did help me realize I know nothing about networking, lol. I'm eager to learn though. Love it, Ashley. You probably know more things than you do. So good. Melissa, I did phone banking for alumni donations too. Yes, Melissa, tap into that skill. So good. Rochelle, wow, I don't have that skill set. That's totally fine, love. Okay. So what I said, we're going to get into the top 3 mistakes so that you don't make them. And then we'll bring Rachel up at the 30-minute mark. So I was taking little notes. So if you see me look down, you'll see me have notes. If you see this little thing, I'm a fidget spinner kind of gal. So if you see that, you're like, what's happening? It's a fidget spinner. So the first mistake that I see when going out into the world for networking, especially in this virtual world, is believing that it has to be formal. There's a conception out there, and put this in the chat if you feel this way, that when you go into a networking call, it has to be very formal. Y'all, you feel like I got to put on my power blazer. I got to like have a full face of makeup. Like I got to be ready. I got to be ready to go. Put a yes in the chat if you have felt like, yes, I have to show up formally on networking calls. Put a no in the chat if you don't feel that way so I can see who's here. But I want to hear more. I want to be more authentic. Okay, beautiful. So yeah, let me know in the chat if that is something that you have heard before. This is very common advice that I've heard from my clients who are all women in tech. And the truth is, formality is appropriate in certain situations, but the most authentic networking stems from you feeling authentic. And so if you're not a formal person, I'm going to invite you to not show up with a ton of formality. Now, what I am going to invite you to show up as is the most badass version of yourself. Y'all, I want you to think about who is that version of you that is a total epic badass. What does she look like? What is she dressing in? What's her environment? Because the truth is, this, what you see right now, is me and my most badass version of self. I love being connected to nature. I love being outside. I love cold, sparkling water. I love dangly earrings. I love wearing my hair naturally curly, and I love wearing a nice casual dress. Usually I'm just in yoga pants, but I'm thinking, who is this most badass version of me, and how am I wanting to show up? So here's my invitation. It does not have to be formal, but how can you show up in a way where you feel like the badass that you are? That's what's going to come across in the screen, especially if you're doing virtual networking. Because the truth is, if you're showing up in the way that you think other people expect you to show up, my experience specifically working with women, specifically working with people of color, specifically working with folks from marginalized groups, is that it doesn't feel like them. It doesn't feel like them. And there's this tenseness that comes with being formal. And so guess what? That tenseness turns into nerves, and those nerves turns into anxiety. And that comes across when you're speaking. So I invite you, instead of thinking about how to be formal, how to be like the badass you are. That's the first mistake I'm going to invite you to avoid. Even if you are, I would say, interviewing for high-level jobs, because y'all, I coach people who are in senior manager, director, senior director, VP level roles. And while, of course, you're not showing up looking all schleppy, because guess what? I can guarantee your badass version of yourself is not looking schleppy. If I don't have Jews in the house, schleppy means like, I'm schlepping around. I'm kind of being very casual. I'm in my sweatpants, right? How does the badass version of yourself show up? And I invite you to show up that way in that networking call. Okay? Let me know if any of that resonated with you. Let me know in the chat. Oh, yes, I had an aha moment here. Oh, that makes sense. Ooh, I have a question about that. Go ahead and drop it in the chat as I scan through. I'm telling y'all, I'm here right here with you. So I care about what you are experiencing. Professional but authentic. Yeah, exactly, Lauren. I love it. Elaine, can you explain what you mean by that? So Lauren, I'll speak for myself. Feel free to chime in the chat here, but professional but authentic. So I would say badass and authentic. Like, listen, honestly, if a badass version of you has purple hair, y'all, you better put on that purple hair, because we want you to land jobs. I want you to land a job where you can be yourself. And however you show up in the interview is what they're going to be expecting from you day one, right? So love dangly earrings. Changing careers is intimidating, but it's nice to know I can still be me. Yes, Ashley. Yes, 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 yes. I invite you, like, I know it can feel like I have to show up this way. I have to talk this way. I have to say these certain things. But the truth is, when you are being yourself, that also means that the right opportunities are going to be coming your way. That means people are going to want to talk to you because they're interested in who you truly are. Lauren, I'll express myself professionally. Okay, great. You answered that. No, I am Jewish. Love it. Christine, I remember reading an article on Indra Nooyi. I don't know what that is. And she said once she started wearing saris instead of business shoes, she started getting traction. Yes, exactly. So glad. Yes, badass version of me has visible tattoos and piercings. Yes, B. Okay. So, I mean, show up with your tattoos and your piercings. That'd be my invitation. Listen, if people cannot get down with your tattoos and piercings, do you want to work there? Just a question. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but ask the questions so that you can step into your next level of authenticity. All right, beautiful. I'm loving this engagement in the chat, y'all. Thank you for being here. Thank you for playing along. Thank you for connecting with each other. So good. That was mistake number 1, thinking it has to be formal. Nope, we just gonna show up as our badass self. Beautiful. Mistake number 2 is this is what I often hear. People believing that networking has to be with someone at the company or in the role that you're looking for. So let me hear in the chat, what are some of the roles that you all are wanting to apply for, interview for, and land? Let me know in the chat. What are some of the roles that you want to land? Because what I hear often from women is that they believe that their networking calls are not effective or valuable unless it is with somebody who is in that specific role or it's with somebody at that specific company. And this is a myth. This is a myth. Now, of course, it's going to be valuable if you can have conversations with somebody in your specific role or at the specific company you want to work for. But what happens if you don't know somebody in that role? Or you don't know somebody at that company? Has anybody here gone through LinkedIn, Recruiter, or Idealist, or wherever you're searching for jobs and asked the question, what do I do if I don't know anybody at the company? Right? That was one of the questions that was submitted prior to this summit was, how do I get a job if I don't know anybody at the company? And my answer to you is, don't start there. My invitation for you is to tap into your existing network with clarity on what role you want, with clarity on the type of company you want to work for. Because when we talk about degrees of separation, it's really important to remember that it's okay if somebody's not in your immediate network. But the value and expansiveness of your network is defined by the people your people know. So it's not who I know. It's who Rachel knows. And I know Rachel. So Rachel can connect to me. So if I'm looking for a role or I'm looking for a company and I simply decide to have a networking call with my existing pool of people, which is what I'm inviting you to do, instead of thinking I have to network with somebody who's at the company or in the role that I want, I'm inviting you to start with who I know. Start with who I know. And here's the beauty of it. It doesn't need to be formal networking when it's your friend or when it's your previous colleagues. It can be framed as a catch-up call. It can be framed as a coffee chat. It can be framed as, hey, I'm curious what you're up to, and I would love to ask for advice and support as I figure out what's next for me, right? And so there's a very specific process that you can go through to get super clear on who is already in your network that may have connections or influence to the places, the people, the roles, and the companies where you want to land. So for example, I'm just going to jump into the chat real quick. Lauren wants to be a DEI director or manager. B wants to be program planner or event planner. Front-end developer, project manager, DEI trainer, people lead. Beautiful. So what would it look like for you to set up 5 coffee chats with people who you would love to catch up with and with people who you trust and people who you may not know if they have connections with people like this, but you feel comfortable reaching out and asking for a coffee chat? I would invite it to be 45 minutes because 30 minutes just flies by and I feel like it's too short. So I invite you to do 45 minutes. Oh, perfect. Somebody just dropped a resource in the chat. Schedule 5 45-minute calls with people you already know, people you already like, people you already trust, and have the conversation where you ask them how their life is going. You offer them support, ask what support they're looking for, and then make your ask and say, hey, I've gotten really clear in the last few months that what I care most about is being an event planner. And I'm curious to know who you know is an event planner or what companies you know are event planning companies or looking to hire event planners. That way you're planting the seeds again in an authentic way, in a way that doesn't feel so claustrophobic, right? That's often when I work with women that's their biggest fear, is like, I'm going to go in and I'm going to be so nervous, I won't know what to say. Right? So this is a way for you to get started. So that's my tip number 2. Tap into your internal network. Can you put the number of people that you think you can reach out to in the chat right now? I'm curious. How many people do you feel like you could reach out to and comfortably have a conversation, comfortably have a coffee chat? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20? Let me know in the chat. How many people could you commit to reaching out to schedule a 45-minute coffee chat? Not calling it a networking, not calling it something specific. Let me know in the chat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because here's the truth, y'all. You can be on this virtual summit all day and listen to incredible speakers and feel inspired and motivated and ready. And nothing changes until you take action. Nothing changes until you take action. So this is where the rubber meets the road, y'all. Are you committed to this dream role? Are you committed to stepping into networking conversations with ease? If so, give yourself permission to write down the names of 5 people who you feel comfortable reaching out to. You got this. You can even just start with 1. Let's see. Molly's got 7. Bee's got 7. Elaine's got 1. 2. I need help with clarity on what to do. Okay, Rochelle, we might be able to support you as we get later on. I want you to ask yourself the question, what's my biggest challenge right now? And write that down and save it until Rachel comes back, and then we'll put it in the chat. Beautiful. Be this week too. Ashley, probably 2. I will set a goal of 5 this week. Yeah, we can start small. Even if you just start with 1, you will start to gain momentum and then clarity. And sometimes the clarity of what you want comes from having these conversations. All right. Beautiful. Thank you for your engagement in the chat. So good to see these numbers come in. All right. Number 3, mistake number 3, believing that you have to know exactly what to say. Put agenda in the chat if you're a person who wants to know the agenda of every call you step into. Put agenda in the chat if you are like, girl, I want the agenda. I want to know exactly what I am saying every single time. I am that person, so I'm raising my hand. And this is something else I hear often from women, is saying, I need to know exactly what I'm going to say before I have the conversation. Has anybody felt that? Like, I have to know exactly what job I want. I have to know exactly what company I want to work for before I can reach out and have these conversations. The truth is, these conversations can be a way for you to get clarity on what you want. That's why I invite you to start with your internal network, because it's 1000% okay if you don't know what you want. But instead of thinking that you have to know exactly what to say, I invite you to set a clear intention for what you want to come out of the conversation. So for example, let's say I am a woman who is pivoting into tech from healthcare. I saw that on one of the questions that came in, and I'm working right now with a handful of women who are pivoting from healthcare into tech. And they're having these questions. What do I say at a networking call? I'm like, okay, let's talk about it. What is your intention for this one call? So let's say I'm a woman and I'm transitioning from being a registered nurse, and I want to transition to becoming a developer or a Salesforce administrator. I'm just picking words. And I'm going to have a conversation with Rachel. And Rachel is the co-founder and CEO of She Geeks Out. Rachel's in my network. Rachel is my friend. I have no problem reaching out to Rachel to have a coffee chat. And so what I'm going to think about is, what's one thing I want to have come out of this conversation? Do I want Rachel to help me figure out what role is going to work well for me? That could be an intention. I could go into that conversation and say, I want Rachel's help to help me figure out, like, what is a role that I want. Maybe an intention for Rachel is to say, well, actually, I know that Rachel runs a community of badass women in tech people. And so I think that she would probably know somebody else who has pivoted from healthcare into tech. And I want to have a conversation with them. That could be an intention that I have. And I would go into the conversation knowing that what I want at the end of it is for Rachel to connect me or to offer to connect me with a woman who's pivoted from healthcare into tech. Is this making sense? Like, there are different ways that you can go into networking calls. And this is what like irks me so much about the advice out there about how to network is they tell you exactly what to say. But y'all, you can go into a networking conversation and have 50 different intentions. Your intention could be connect me with a recruiter at this specific company. Your intention could be help give me the names of 3 companies that align with my values. Your intention could be sit with me in my fear and anxiety because I am freaking petrified of how to go through this. Or your intention could be review my resume. Ask for somebody to review my resume. So your intention is very personal to you. And I'm not sorry to say that it's not my job to figure out your intention. It's yours. It is your responsibility and it is your opportunity to really declare and get clear on what you want out of every single networking call. Y'all, I'm telling you, this is what will bring your process into ease. It will help lessen the anxiety because the pressure that we as women put on ourselves to deliver and create results every single time is part of what is crushing us. Is because we're not giving ourselves permission to do things differently, to breathe, to know that it's going to be okay. And you have the power to set an intention for what you want out of a conversation. And I'm not guaranteeing that it will happen because again, that will put the pressure on yourself to say, well, I went into the conversation with Rachel and I really thought that I was going to get the name of a recruiter at that company and I didn't, and I am a failure. I'm laughing because I do that. Like I'm practicing not doing that, right? I support my clients to not practice that. And so it's not about setting an intention and then freaking white knuckling it until it happens. It's saying, I trust myself enough to go into a conversation and have an idea of what I want out of the end of it. And I may even be so bold as to say that at the top of the call. That is a tip and trick you can use is when you start a networking call, let the person know, I'm so grateful that you hopped on this call with me. And before we get done, I'm hoping that by the end of this, we can do X, or I can ask you this question. So that they know. Because again, I'm inviting you to start with your internal network. I'm inviting you to start with people who you know, like, and trust. And I'm inviting you to go through a process, which I'll share in a bit, so that it feels manageable and you can work your way through it so that you can create momentum, so you can create ease, so you can create clarity. I mean, that's what I'm about. That's how I help clients land dream jobs in 2 months. This works. And so I did not bring you slides. I did not bring you a deck because I wanted this to be a conversation so you can feel what it's like to have a networking call. Put real in the chat if you have felt like this has been a real conversation. Put real in the chat if you have felt like this is a real conversation, because that's all I care about is that you give yourself permission to have real conversations with real people in real time and give yourself permission to take the pressure off. Give yourself permission to take the pressure off. And so I'll recap our 3 biggest mistakes, biggest challenges. I'll invite you all to a free resource, and then I'll invite Rachel up to support. So real quick, I will summarize the 3 biggest mistakes. So thank you for your love in the chat. Number 1 mistake is you think it has to be formal. We think networking has to be formal. You have to show up in your black power blazer with everything slicked back, no tattoos, earrings showing, whatever. I'm inviting you to release that and to show up as the badass version of yourself who you want to become and be every single day. Number 2, the belief that networking has to be with somebody at the specific company or in the specific role that you want. Demystify that. We're pulling back the Oz curtain. It's just a little man running the little thing. That's not true. I invite you to tap into your internal network. And Kimberly had a great question. What if you don't have a great internal network? So, Kimberly, I'm going to invite you to complete the resource that I'll give to you, because the truth is, like, we're just going to have you tap into friends, family, old coworkers. I'm basically going to have you open up your phone and go to your text messages and scroll for who are the people you love talking to, and pick 5 or pick 10 is going to be my stretch for you as your coach, because I'm here to stretch you. Okay. That was mistake number 2. Mistake number 3 is believing that you have to know exactly what to say. And that is not true. I invite you instead to set an intention. Set a specific intention for what you want at the end of the call, and give yourself permission if it doesn't happen like that. Okay? Let me see. Oh my gosh, look at B. Reached out to 2 people during this call. LinkedIn message is so simple. Love it. And B, would you mind, if you're open, would you mind copying and pasting the message that you sent on LinkedIn here in the chat? So if people feel stuck on like how to reach out to somebody, they can pull that. Beautiful. I love it. So let me tell you about this free resource, because I'm here to get you all into action. I'm here to get you into momentum. I'm not here to just have all the feels, have all the feel goods, and then you turn off this thing and you're like, well, crap, what do I do now? So I'm offering you a free resource. This is called the Top 10 Networking List. This is a free resource, free downloadable. It will add you to my email list newsletter. You can unsubscribe immediately if you do not want it, but I want you to get this PDF that is fillable. I'll include in the follow-up email. Thank you, Rachel, because this is the process. So this is a way where you can actually start making moves immediately. So I invite you to go click on that. Go ahead and download it. Feel free to share it with anybody in your network, like whoever it's going to serve 1000%. So with that, look, be put in the chat. Thank you. So helpful. With that, we're going to move into some Q&A for our final 20 minutes. So Rachel, I'm going to invite you up, and I don't know the best way to do this. You've been in hopping all day, so I'm going to let you.
I sure have. Here I am.
Here you are.
How may I be of support?
Well, first of all, was there anything that resonated or landed with you?
I mean, everything you say always resonates and lands well with me. And it's just, I would say that it's really like, I mean, just proof. Like Emma is so real in what she is talking about. Like we met at a conference years ago, and I have a lot of friends, but no one is consistently like on it the way Emma is, like remembering my birthdays. Please, I like barely remember anybody's birthdays. Like just a quick text.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
what I appreciated, and you didn't specifically say, is that like, you know, I think sometimes like the intention when you're networking is like, how are people going to help me? But I think that it's like really nice when there's an opportunity for it to be not just so transactional, which is what I've always appreciated about you. It's not just about that. It's like, because it can feel gross. Networking can be like, oh hey, I do want, that's the intention, and I say the words, and then I'm gonna go and like not talk with you again until the next time I need
something else.
Yeah, that's how to make it not icky, is to have it be authentic and genuine, which is what you do. So.
Well, and I love that, Rachel. Let me just chime in there real quick, because the truth is, transactional approaches to relationships, because we're at She Geeks Out, is based in systems of oppression. It's based in a capitalist-driven labor for labor relationship between humans.
Yes.
And so every time you show up authentically and connected and present, like you are truly doing liberation work.
That's right.
So
preach.
Right. To the Jews in the house, from the Jew. So I guess questions for you, Rachel, is, were there any questions in the chat that you want to make sure we loop back around to? Please put your questions in the chat, or there are things that you think the community might be wondering. We can just vibe.
Yeah, no, I'm here for it. I'm ready to. I know that there were some questions that I sent you. Were there any ones that were in particular that stood out to you from that from the when people signed up?
I feel like I touched on the ones that I felt like I could
You did it.
effectively
Maybe
support
we
people.
can talk a little bit about the elevator pitch piece of it. Someone
Okay.
wrote that the elevator pitch scares them. So I don't know if you have any thoughts around
Okay.
what that looks like if you are talking to a new person, if you're at a conference, or like, okay, this is actually networking that's maybe a little bit more formal.
Yeah. Okay. Here's my recommendation. If you cannot create your elevator pitch in 1 hour, go get help. Because I see people spend hours, days, weeks, months, years being like, how do I create an elevator pitch? And they'll Google it and they'll download free templates and it doesn't work. When in truth, what I see is if you cannot create your elevator pitch in an hour, what would it look like to invest in yourself and pay for 1 or 2 coaching sessions with some coach out there to help you figure it out? Because that is something I do. I'll work with women who speak at conferences or they're going out on the job search. And in 90 minutes, we create your elevator pitch. Now, the pieces of an elevator pitch, because I'm like, I want more women to invest in themselves. And I get that it can be scary. And an elevator pitch is a perfect time to try on coaching or support. The pieces of a successful elevator pitch. Number one, you can accurately describe what you want. Number two, you can accurately describe what you're great at. And you can accurately describe why that matters to you. You can journal that out. You can ask a friend to talk it through with you for an hour. But those 3 things get to be super crystal clear. And if that is like the scariest thing to try to figure out how to say, what would it look like for you to invest in yourself to figure it out?
Yeah.
Is that supportive?
I mean, I think it is.
well, you're our conduit here. So unless people in the chat tell us otherwise.
If someone on the chat would like to specify, and a question did come in while we were talking, is how can young professionals start creating a network? I would say also, I'm going to add on to, in this wild world of COVID and monkeypox and whatever else there is that's coming at us. Yeah.
Does that change the question or is that just the caveat? Oh my gosh, I love that. Ooh, Ashley, it was in the moment, girl. I don't know. Somebody help us.
Recorded. This is all recorded.
I think I said, Ashley, the get clear on what you want, get clear at what you're great at, and get clear on why that matters to you. Yeah, y'all got each other in the chat. You got it. You got each other in the chat. So the question about creating a network as a young professional. So Danielle, I think this is a great question. There are multiple options, right? So one opportunity is you can tap into free young professional networks all across the country. There are ones that are Young Professional Nonprofit Network, which is YNPN. They have chapters all over the country. You can go on meetup.com. Meetup.com is great. They have virtual meetups. I'm a part of women in tech communities. You can join. Hopefully, you're a part of the SGO community. If you're probably a part of the SGO community, so I would just throw a little chat out in their general Slack group and say, "Hey, I want to have coffee chats," and set up a quick free Calendly link, and people can schedule time with you to have coffee chats. So that's one option. Second option is you can step into a professional development program. So, for example, Rise Up, which we do in partnership with Rachel, in our last cohort, the cohort of 10 women, one woman was in there. She just graduated from college, like legit 2021. And her employer paid for her to join Rise Up. And now she has a community of women all up and down the ladder. So we had senior managers in there. We had one director to get in there. But the last thing I'll offer, this was just how I networked. This was in person, so you could probably do it virtually. But y'all, I literally used to walk into the office of the CEO and just talk with him. Now, I'm a troll, right? Like, and I have a gift of being able to just converse with anybody. But he was this, like, he still is this amazing Italian guy in his 50s who have built like multi-million-dollar companies. And I used to just pop in there with like fun facts of the day. I would ask him how his wife was. I would ask him how his kids were. Like, and I started building a relationship from there. So hopefully one of those routes can feel good for you. Rachel,
Yeah.
you feel supportive?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I really appreciate this. First of all, Muna, if I pronounced your name correctly, I appreciate the Toastmasters suggestion totally. And then Letitia, or Letitia, I want to make sure I pronounce that correctly. Really appreciate that. I think especially there's like, it's almost like networking for introverts. You know, Emma, you are a high E extrovert. You don't have a problem walking into a room. You don't have a problem engaging with people that you don't know. But I think some of the work that you've been doing in the Rise Up program that I have seen, I think can address this question. So I don't know if you want to add.
I will just caveat, I probably should have said this at the beginning. Every single one of these tips is for introverts.
That's fair.
Like, y'all, the women I work with are introverts. They are sensitive. They are empathetic. They are kind. They are awkward. They are nerdy. Letitia, to your point, I have a lot of not English as their first language speakers who I coach and I work with and I introduce with people. So know that what we're talking about here is pretty much the antithesis of how to network. Because the way that people tell you to network is very catered to extroverts. And so I hope that by giving you step-by-step processes that feel small and easy and attainable, that's how we support people who are not high extroverts or high loud talkers, right? So I invite you to try these strategies out and see how they feel. And if they don't work for you, that's okay. But again, everything's designed for that, for you, for that type of person.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, if that's okay. I mean, I love the breath work piece of it. I will say with one caveat, so just taking some deep breaths can calm the nervous system. I will say, I will share a little funny, I think it's funny story in retrospect, is I was so nervous. I get very nervous with public speaking. A lot of people don't know that about me, but I do. And so one time I had to do something that was really nerve-wracking, and I did so much deep breathing that I felt like I was going to pass out. So don't do that much deep breathing, but just like 3 deep breaths. Otherwise you're going to hyperventilate. So
yeah,
just my
well,
advice.
and I'll jump in there real quick, because if you're interested in breath work and other opportunities to calm your nerves, check out Rise Up, because a lot of stuff that we do is like non-traditional work and it includes breath work. So part of what could have been happening for Rachel, and I'm not sure if it was, but part of what we see out there in the breathwork space is we'll take deep breaths, but we'll still take them from our chest area. And so if everybody right now, if you want to try, you can see my tummy, put your hands on your belly and try breathing breaths so that your belly expands. It's a little harder, right? Yeah. It's so much harder. Do it like 3 or 4 times.
And we ladies, we don't want to have our stomachs get bigger.
We don't want to let it fly.
No, don't care for it.
So belly breaths. Belly breaths are the one of the ways to take a deep breath. And if that doesn't feel accessible to you, this is one of the tips we do in Rise Up. So you're just getting free content right here. You put your arms up. Rach, do you want to try this with me? Put your arms up on your head and lean your head back.
That's nice.
Now try breathing into your belly.
Oh, wow.
You feel the difference?
I know people who are just like walking into this are probably like, what the hell is
Yeah, what we're doing is tips if you're nervous before going into a networking call. See, this is why I wanted to invite you up, Rachel, because I was like, we're going to get into stuff that I wouldn't have even thought of. I'm so glad we did.
Yeah.
Can you put breath in the chat if that was supportive for you all, or if you tried it with us?
Yeah.
Put breath in the chat. Beautiful. What else? What else is coming to mind for you all? What are other... Actually, let's do this. What's your biggest challenge right now with networking? Let us know in the chat. What is your biggest challenge right now with networking?
Great question. Why are people here? I don't know, Emma, you might have figured it all out.
Here we go, Lauren. Love you. Okay. If you're reaching out to someone cold, any suggestions for wording on the note? Asking for their time. Is that okay if I have nothing to offer in return? So it's totally fine to reach out to them, 1000%. Suggestions for wording on the note. So, Lauren, I so rarely coach people to do something cold. So first I would check if you have any networks, like connections through connection, so that somebody else can make the introduction for you. But here's another thing you can do. I do have an idea. See, it comes when the question comes. I would check out their LinkedIn and check out their Instagram. Do a little stalking, some safe stalking on the internet. Sleuthing. How about not stalking? Sleuthing. Sleuthing on the internet to find out if they've written an interesting article, they've posted something of interest. You see that they post a lot of content about dogs or databases or whatever. That can be an introduction for how you create a connection, because the important part when you're doing an outreach is you want to have a connection. You want to have a build opportunity. So you could reach out and say, hey, so-and-so, I love your content on LinkedIn talking about databases. I'm a geek about databases, or I know nothing about databases, but I want to learn more. So you get to have a bridge for something that resonates for them, connected to why you care about it, and then ask for time.
Yeah.
What do you think, Rach? Anything else you
would I agree, but it just reminded me of something that someone else asked in a previous session, which was around the follow-up piece when you're networking. So, I think it's probably more with the cold folks, but even if it's like an introduction and it's the first time that you're connecting with someone, what that follow-up looks like, how do you maintain that relationship? And I do know that I want to acknowledge that there's other folks in the chat too. So
yeah, I mean, follow-up happens every single time, and it's embedded and embodied into all of my relationships. So like when Rachel and I see each other in person, when I leave, I send her a text because I love you and I want to thank you for the time that we shared together, So yes, follow up, a thank you. But again, it's got to be hard. It's got to be true to you. Like if you take a template and it does not feel true to you, like people will know it's a template.
Yeah.
So don't let that freak you out, but literally just read the template and be like, would these be the words that I say? Are these the words that I would say? Is that supportive? Whoever asked that question. Lauren, can you let us know if that was helpful? All right, we have 2 minutes left. So how about this? I'm going to just redrop in here into the chat the free resource for you all to download. And let's just take, we'll do one more, Rach, and then I want to wrap up with one other thing.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Which question do you want?
Oh, yeah, I hear the time issue, which is like that feels like that could be a whole session. And then Valerie, though, you just wrote, not understanding why people ghosting. Don't most companies offer referral bonuses?
So Valerie, I'm just going to invite it's probably not about you. Like people are ghosting because of their own stuff. So all you can do is nudge, remind, follow up. And if people don't respond, the biggest thing is don't let that. If somebody ghosts you, don't let that turn into an internal conversation about how you're not good enough or you can't get this job or why you're not valuable. That's the issue. If people don't respond to you and they ghost, I want you to get to the point where you're like, okay, it's probably their own stuff. That takes practice. That's strengthening a muscle of being not attached to the outcome. That's strengthening your muscle of knowing your worth, knowing your value, knowing what you care about, and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So I hope that is helpful. And how about this? If you all have additional questions, I do YouTube trainings and I'm looking for like questions that people are asking right now. So how about this? I'll drop an email in the chat. If you have additional questions that you want answered, feel free to send me an email and I might create a YouTube training on it. But make sure you download that free worksheet so that I have your email so you learn when I drop the YouTube.
Yeah, and your emails are very entertaining and educational. So
Thank
you roll like we do. Giphies are friends.
We
so.
need it. Well, huge thank you.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, so good. I want to know in the chat, what's the biggest aha moment or what's one key takeaway that you're taking away from this session? What's one key takeaway that you have for this session? And I'm going to invite you all that if what we talked about resonated with you or this way of operating in the workplace resonates with you, to check out Rise Up on SGO's website and join the wait list for our next cohort that's launching in September.
Yeah.
We have limited spots for our next cohort. It's a 10-week leadership accelerator for women in tech. And SGO has provided incredible resources. So we are partnering together. Go ahead and check that out. Let's see what we got. Be your badass self.
Yes.
Yes. I love it, Ashley. So good. I think with that, I'm complete. Thank you all so much for joining.